a symbol of US pride and economic dominance. But the world's choice reserve currency could be losing its luster. There's a global appetite for change.
Избыточного монополизма доллара как единственной мировой резервной валюты. Вот это точно плохо для мировой экономики. Это сделало мировую экономику несбалансированной и очень уязвимой.
Is the dollar the first casualty as the United States becomes more isolated from the rest of the world? For decades, the US currency has been the standard in global trade, but the BRICS alliance is championing change. Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa are seeking to reorder global priorities. Dollars have been the backbone of economic security for decades, a fact that won't change overnight. But if US influence wanes further, so too could its currency.
Here's Elizabeth Warren's dire prediction in a post she titles, quote, "The Coming Economic Crash and How to Stop It." Warning lights are flashing. Whether it's this year or next year, the odds of another economic downturn are high and growing.
And what we're going to do is ask a question about whether we are already in an actual recession.
But what is interesting is that you've got the executive branch, the Federal Reserve, and even Congress now approving this debt ceiling increase today, all acting like something bad is coming because they're all preparing for the worst. And you don't try to weaken the dollar and you don't try to get the Fed to cut rates dramatically if things are great. You know, it is crazy to think of a stock market at all-time highs, an economy that's supposedly booming, and yet you're all over the Federal Reserve to cut rates even further and to flush more money into the system.
Visualize this volatility for you. First of all, there is talk that countries like China and Russia and Turkey and India are looking to dump the dollar.
For our top international story this hour, we are examining the growing global trend of ditching the U.S. dollar. As this week, Russia announced it is working towards replacing the U.S. currency while conducting trade with this news comes just weeks after the Russian government announced it will work to de-dollarize its economy in a bid to lessen the impact of U.S. sanctions. The foreign minister said very recently that he believes the trend of the world is moving away from the dollar. Let's listen to what he had to say.
The seeds, and I'm not naive to believe that this tree will grow tomorrow, but the seeds of moving away from US dollar are being sowed. And I think US pressure is the fertilizer. The age of dominance, the age of hegemony is long gone.
Very briefly, Kay, all of these countries have something in common. They're either in some sort of rift with the United States or directly targeted by sanctions. Why does this move away from the dollar make sense for all of them?
Yeah, it makes sense right now because, you know, these countries have always wanted this, but now the U.S. is really its hubris has gone beyond its capacity. It's fighting these wars in Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq that it can't finance. It's losing these wars. It's losing international respect. Well, these countries, Iran, China, Russia, are on the rise. They're forming multilateral ties. They're building diplomatic relations.
And something like that has never happened since World War II. It's no coincidence, of course, that many of these countries are also in BRICS, which are trying to build an alternative to the U.S. financial hegemony we've experienced over the last few decades.
We're hearing there that China looks set then to challenge the petrodollar. Why does Beijing feel the need to do this?
Well, first of all, they're very brave to do this because countries that have tried to exit the oil-dollar matrix have met terrible ends. Of course, Saddam Hussein wanted to trade oil in euros. He was killed. You had Muammar Gaddafi wanted to trade his energy in something other than U.S. dollars. He was killed. So the track record here is pretty dire. Russia and the Saudis are looking to escape the U.S. dollar hegemony. They're looking to de-dollarize. That's a concept we see all over the world right now as countries want to escape from the U.S. military-industrial complex. These countries around the world are tired of funding America's military adventurism by being a party to the empire of debt, as it's known around the world, the U.S. dollar, and they want to split off. They want their autonomy. China wants autonomy. Russia wants autonomy. Iran wants autonomy. They don't want to be ruled over by the U.S. dollar anymore. So this gives them away this contract, futures contract based in yuan for oil, convertible into gold. It means that these countries can finally, and it's been in place since the end of World War II, escape the Bretton Woods U.S. dollar hegemony, empire of date, supremacy, world reserve currency, that is the U.S. dollar, and we're in a new beginning, I think.
Is there anything then that the U.S. can do about this? Because it's not going to be happy that it's going to lose the petrodollar, so how would you expect it to fight back?
Well, they're exactly right. They will fight back. They will start a war. Maybe they'll start a war between Japan and China. Maybe they'll start a war with North Korea. America will do anything to keep the U.S. dollar as world reserve currency. They will invade a country like Afghanistan. They'll stop at nothing.
The U.S. deploying more military to Saudi Arabia in a show of force amid escalating tensions in the Middle East.
The U.S. forces at least 1,000 more come at the request of Central Command for what they call air, naval, and ground-based threats from Iran.
The U.S. sending an aircraft carrier, warships, and fighter jets to the Middle East as a, quote, unmistakable message to Iran's regime.
The countries that are resistant to America's financial cartel are Russia, China, Iran. So now they figured out, you know what, we're going to split off from the dollar, and they can do so with this new contract. And they're embracing cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies in this context is another way to de-dollarize, get out of the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar is being held up narrowly with the Pentagon's various actions around the world and a lot of market machinations from the central banks. But once the cat's out of the bag, look for the dollar to have a very significant crash.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. I think the world is in the process of trying to de-dollarize and trying to get themselves in a situation where the U.S. is not in a position to weaponize the U.S. dollar. And I think, all of this is going to backfire on the United States. President Trump, while he was still a candidate, the U.S. economy is a big, fat, ugly bubble. What's really growing is the size and the cost of the federal government. It's spending more than ever. It's borrowing more than ever. So are U.S. individuals and corporations. I think the economy is headed to a massive recession. In fact, time before the overall economy rolls over. And as Trump likes to have things big, I think we could experience the biggest recession ever. Now, that's maybe not what Trump wanted, but unfortunately, that's what he's going to get. When these things were resetting, people couldn't afford to pay. Well, the same thing is going to happen on a national scale. Rates are going up, and we're too broke to pay.
So the problem is, if we try and normalize things, it's going to create chaos. Is there any way that we can avoid that at this point?
No, it's impossible. In fact, because we kept it going so long, the collapse is going to be that much bigger. I mean, the sooner we face that reality, the better. But no politician wants to face that reality.
Right.
I mean, they want to pretend everything is great.
Right, of course.